Hi, everybody. My name is Samantha. I'm the Program Impact Manager here at Olympic College Foundation, and I oversee our scholarship program. Today, I'm going to talk through a little bit about our scholarship program and show you how to complete the application. So, I'm going to share my screen here and talk a bit about um, the general scholarship program and deadlines. All right. So, in the 24-25 academic year, Olympic College Foundation awarded scholarships to 195 students. The average award given out was $2,647. The minimum award given was $1,500, and the maximum was $10,000 to use for your OC education. So, a total of over $350,000 was awarded to students here at OC from Olympic College Foundation. It's easy to apply. You'll need to know your CTC link number. So if you're a brand new student and you haven't yet applied to Olympic College, that's going to be your first step so that you have your student ID number. Then you'll go to olympic.awardspring.com. I'm also going to show you how to navigate to that page from Olympic College's website. You'll create a free account, complete the application, and then AwardSpring will automatically match you with all of the scholarships that you're eligible for. You'll click apply on any scholarships that have any next steps. Some of them might have follow up questions that you'll need to fill out before you're officially applied for that scholarship. If you are a student graduating from Bremerton High School or Olympic High School this year, you'll be eligible for OC Promise. This is a specific program, not just a scholarship. The scholarship covers the gap between financial aid and the first year of tuition and fees here at OC. It also includes one on one support services to help students succeed and various events throughout the year to create a sense of community with other students here. There are up to 30 scholarships available each year per high school. There are some qualifications based on GPA and income in order to be eligible for the program. And you'll need to apply using the same application process at olympic.awardspring.com. And the deadline to apply is March 31st. So, some general timelines. Right now, we are in the middle of our spring scholarship cycle. These applications open on January 31st, and the deadline to apply is March 31st. These applications are for scholarships for the 2025-2026 academic year. So, if you apply for funding right now, it's going to be applied towards your education next year. We'll notify students in early to mid June if they've received any awards, and you can start using your funding as early as summer quarter if you're taking summer classes here at OC, or fall quarter if you're not taking summer classes. We have a second scholarship cycle called the fall scholarship cycle. This is normally a medical type of scholarship, so for students who are in a nursing program or officially enrolled in one of our health sciences programs here at OC. However, if there are any scholarships that weren't awarded in the spring cycle due to not having any applicants, we'll open those in the fall cycle as well. So it's always worth checking out which scholarships are available and seeing if you qualify for any. That cycle will open in mid July. Students are notified in October, and you are awarded funding. You'll be given that funding for winter and spring quarters here at OC. It's really important to check your student email in July to see when those applications are open. If you're not taking summer classes, you might not really be keeping an eye out on your student email account, but that is how we notify students of any scholarship opportunities. Some of our scholarships do require you to maintain a specific GPA or enrollment in specific number of credits each quarter. Not all of our scholarships have those types of requirements, but if you end up being awarded one that does have those requirements, we'll share those with you. And we'll check your GPA and your credit enrollment at the start of each quarter to ensure you qualify for funding for that quarter. All of your scholarship funding needs to be used within the academic year. It won't carry over into the next year, and it won't go with you if you transfer to a different college or university. So, some general tips. It's important that you complete your FAFSA or WASFA in addition to completing your scholarship application. And we typically recommend you complete those before beginning your application because some of the information you get from your FAFSA will be filled in on your scholarship application. The reason for this is we do use financial need in order to determine some folks' eligibility for scholarships, and your FAFSA helps us determine your level of financial need. We also recommend that you gather digital copies of a letter of recommendation and your unofficial transcript before beginning your application. We only need your most recent transcript. So if you are in your first year here at OC, we would just need your transcripts from OC. We don't need your high school transcripts or transcripts from any institutions you were at prior to coming here. If you are a high school senior, that would be your high school transcripts. These are going to be unofficial transcripts, so you don't need to pay for an official copy. If you're a student here at OC, you'll find those on your CTC Link account. Our scholarships are reviewed using a standard scoring rubric, and they're reviewed blind, meaning that we hide all students' personal information, their names, their address, their gender, anything about them aside from the answers to some of the questions used to determine your eligibility for scholarships. This helps us ensure that our reviewers are really getting to know who you are without any potential bias towards anyone. We also have 3 different reviewers look at each application, and then we average out those scores so that you have a variety of folks looking at your application and scoring it. The last tip I can provide is to really take your time on the essay portion of the application. This is where you showcase who you are and what your goals are here at OC and in the long term when it comes to your career. This is the area that is scored most significantly in the review process. So really take your time with the essays. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get to the application from Olympic College's website. All right, so if you go to the OC website, you'll want to click on Fund Your Education and then go over here to Scholarships. If you scroll down, you'll see Apply for Scholarships, and you'll see this button for OC Foundation Scholarships. When you click here, this will redirect you to the Olympic College Foundation website, which is olympiccollegefoundation.org. You can review some general stats here. You can click here for more details on how to apply. Click here for more scholarship information. And if you scroll down, you'll see information about AwardSpring, which is the website we use for your applications. You'll click Start Your Account and be redirected to that site. If you haven't signed in before, the first thing you're going to see is this page. And this has the banner at the top letting you know that scholarship applications are open January 31st through March 31st. When you go to create your account, you can use your student email or a personal email. It's really up to you, whichever you feel like you're going to use more often and be checking regularly. If you have signed in before, you're going to use the same login you've used in the past. If you forgot your password, you can write or click on forgot password. If you don't have an account, you'll be clicking register here. Once you sign in, you're taken to a dashboard and it tells you what you need to work on. So here, the number one thing I need to complete is my application. I've already started it, but there are some sections I haven't completed yet. If you start your application and you leave, it'll save your progress for you. So when you come back, you don't have to start over at the beginning. As you work on your application, there are different sections along the side here that shows your progress. And if you've completed a section, it'll be marked completed. If you have steps to do still, it'll say in progress. So on this first tab for general information, this at the top is just letting you know that you need to be an admitted OC student in order to be eligible for scholarships. So if you haven't applied to OC and you don't have a CTC Link student ID number, go ahead and click here to get enrolled. We ask that students complete this application in their own voice. And once you complete your application, you'll want to go back to the main homepage and click apply on any scholarships that require next steps. So this first tab is just for your general information. You'll input your Olympic College CTC link number. Your email address is going to be whichever email you check more regularly. So this can be your student email or this can be a personal email. And then it just asks you to confirm that you've put it in correctly. We ask for your primary phone number and then a secondary phone number if you have one. But if you just have a cell phone, just to put that here in the primary phone number section. You'll enter your date of birth and your gender identity. And just once again, all of these things are hidden for our scholarship reviewers. So they're not going to know your contact information, your birthday, your gender identity, or anything like that. Then you'll put your address in. And in this section, it's a drop down to select your country and a drop down to select your state. You'll input your zip code, and then you'll mark which county you reside in. Some of our scholarships are specifically for students who reside in Kitsap County or Mason County and so on. So this will help us determine if you're eligible for specific scholarships. Then at the start of next year, will you be eligible for in-state tuition? So that means you've lived in Washington for 1 year. And if the answer is yes, you'll mark that here. If no, because maybe you're an international student or an out-of-state student, your primary residence is still back home in the state that you moved here from, then you would mark no. And then this last portion is just acknowledging that if awarded funding, you can only use them at Olympic College during the 25-26 academic year. When you're all done with that page, you're going to hit Next Step. This is some additional personal information that just kind of tells us the demographics of students who are applying for our scholarships. Some of these things are used to filter you into various scholarships you could qualify for. Others are just for us to gather data on students, and this information isn't necessarily shared with donors or anyone in the community, but it just helps us know who is it that is applying for scholarships here at OC so that we can improve our outreach to students. So we ask here if you're multilingual, if you speak another language other than English fluently, if you're transitioning from adult basic education, English as a second language, or another transitional studies program. If you face housing insecurities, need assistance with housing or meeting basic needs, go ahead and indicate that here. And then if you're experiencing a significant life transition, we have some examples here. So overcoming addiction, battling an illness, experiencing homelessness, job loss or loss of income, returning to school after incarceration, and so on. So if you're going through a significant change or a significant challenge in your life, you would indicate that here. If you consider yourself as having a disability, chronic health condition, including mental health, or are in recovery, you would indicate that here. And then if you're a primary caretaker, either for your own children, adult family members, siblings, and so on. If you've been in the foster care system, you would indicate that here. And then if you are currently in the military or a veteran of the military, you'll indicate that. So if you mark no here, there's no further questions. But if you mark yes, then there's a follow-up question here asking which branch you served in and if you were honorably discharged. So you'll just answer those follow-up questions if you did serve in the military. If your parents earned a bachelor's degree or higher, you'll mark yes, otherwise you'll mark no. And then we do have a couple of scholarships that ask if you're a US citizen. This is completely optional to answer, so you can mark yes, no, or prefer not to say. In the financial information section, this is where we're asking about information found on your FAFSA or WASFA. So we ask if you filed your FAFSA or WASFA yet. If you are graduating from Bremerton High School or Olympic High School and you are applying for OC Promise, we do require that you filed this before you can be considered. So if you filed already, you'll mark yes. When you file your FAFSA, you're given a number called a Student Aid Index or SAI. This is found in the email provided when you submit your FAFSA. You can also find it under the Accounts tab under FAFSA Submission Summary. So you'll type in what you are provided as your SAI from FAFSA when you fill that out. If you haven't filed your FAFSA yet, but you're going to before the deadline of March 31st, you can go back in and add this information later after you filed your FAFSA. But after March 31st, you can't make any edits to your application. Next, you're going to input your estimated household income and how many people are dependent on that income. So if you live alone, that's just you. If you have parents supporting you, you would put how many people are in that household. If you have maybe one parent, two siblings, and yourself, then you would put 4 people there. And then you'll type in the total number or the total amount of income for your household for one entire year. This can be estimated if that fluctuates a little bit, or you can use the number that you submitted with your FAFSA. If you have roommates, they would not be considered dependents. So your household size would just be yourself if you are a single person living with a couple of roommates. Next, we're going to go to the academic information. So first, we ask what your academic status will be at the start of the 25-26 academic year. So if you're graduating from high school this year, you would click previous high school senior graduating in May or June and enrolling in OC immediately after graduating. If you are already an OC student, you're going to want to look at how many credits you've completed so far, and then add in how many credits you anticipate you'll complete in spring quarter to determine what your credit level will be at by summer quarter of 2025. So you can just kind of estimate based on how many credits you're enrolled in right now, how many you anticipate taking in spring, and then select the one that most aligns with you. We also have an option here if you're in a bachelor's degree program, and then you can select other if you're in not in one of these categories. Then you're going to select how many credits you anticipate enrolling in throughout next year. Some of our scholarships do have credit requirements. So they might require that you're enrolled in 6 credits or more, or 12 credits or more, and so on. If you're awarded one of these scholarships, for example, you click that you're going to be enrolled full-time 12 credits or more, and you're awarded a scholarship that says you have to maintain 12 credits or more each quarter, you will be required to maintain that in order to get your funding each year or each quarter throughout the year. So if your first quarter in fall, you take 12 or 13 credits, and then you find that was a little bit too challenging, and the next quarter you take 10 credits, that could mean that for winter quarter, you might not be eligible for your scholarship funding. You wouldn't have to pay back any previous funding you've been awarded, but you might not be continued to be awarded your funding for the following quarters if you don't meet those requirements. So just make sure whatever you check here, you feel confident you'll be enrolling at that number of credits throughout next year. Then you'll tell us what degree or certificate you're working towards. And if you intend to complete a bachelor's degree, either here at OC or by transferring to a four-year university. We have a couple of scholarships that are really specific, for example, for students who intend to complete a bachelor's degree in engineering. So we have a couple of degree options here. We don't list all degree options in this section, so if you don't see your area of study, just select none of the above. Then you'll input your cumulative GPA. If you are a current student at OC, you can find that on your CTC Link account. If you are in high school, this will just be your cumulative high school GPA. If you're returning to school after a significant break in your education, please just kind of estimate, looking back at your old academic history, what your most recent GPA was, to the best of your knowledge. Then here, you're going to click on what area of study you're interested in pursuing, either at OC or after transferring, and you can check all that apply here. So for example, say you're really into math and finance, you might click finance, math, and accounting, but you also really love art and you think you might minor in art once you transfer to a four-year school or just take a couple art classes here at OC while you work towards your accounting degree. You would also want to click art here if that's the case. So if you have a variety of interests or you see that some of these kind of overlap, go ahead and just click all that apply. This area is what filters you into a lot of our scholarships that are for specific areas of study. So it's important that you look through and take your time and click all that apply to what you think you'll be studying either at OC or beyond. Then you'll select what campus you'll be attending and you can check all that apply. And you'll indicate what high school you graduated from or you will be graduating from. So there are a variety of high schools in Washington State listed here. There's also an option for GED, there's an option for homeschool, and then there's an option for other Washington high school, out of state high school, or out of country high school, and those three are at the bottom. If you have any other degrees you've already obtained, you'll indicate that here. Now, your next step is the essay portion, and this is the most important portion for your application. The first question is your personal statement, and it asks, without telling us your name, in order to maintain your anonymity here with our reviewers, you'll tell us about yourself, what matters most to you, what your academic and career goals are, and what you hope to accomplish with your OC education to benefit yourself, your family, and/or your community. Then in the financial statement section, this is combined along with your student aid index and household income to determine your level of financial need and the impact a scholarship may have on your access and achievement here at OC. Some of our scholarships do have specific preferences for students with greater financial need, and this will help the scholarship committee determine which students most qualify for those scholarships. So please address each of the questions in your response. 1, tell us about your financial need and the impact receiving a scholarship from Olympic College Foundation would have on your ability to achieve your goals. And 2, how will financial assistance impact you, your family, and/or your community? I'm going to share an example of a personal and financial statement from someone who received scholarship funding in this last year. I've gotten their permission to share their essay and redacted any personal information out of it. And yours doesn't have to be as detailed or as long as this, but this is just an example of a scholarship application that was successful in receiving funds and what their essay portions look like. So I'm going to go ahead and share their essay here, and I would just recommend pausing the call and reading through this if you'd like to review it in its entirety. So I'm just going to leave this up here for a moment. You can pause it and read it, and now I'm going to go back to the scholarship application. So this next portion here is about your extracurricular activities. So it asks if volunteering and community service is an important part of your life, something that you really commit to spending time with. And if so, you'll mark yes here. Then tell us about your hobbies, volunteer activities, or how you like to spend your free time. This is optional, but you have up to 1,000 words to do here. It's really important that you don't just think of kind of traditional volunteer activities here. You might not have the capacity to go walk dogs at the Humane Society or hand out food at the shelter, but maybe you act as an interpreter for your parents at medical appointments. Maybe you go grocery shopping for your grandparents on the weekends. Maybe you help care for your little siblings while your parents are working. Those are all still really important ways that you're spending your time and show that you are really involved in your community, whatever that looks like. So go ahead and think outside the box here in what you share about how you spend your free time. And I just recommend you share whatever you're comfortable with. And then if you play any sports, you'll indicate yes. There's some follow-up questions about if you've been accepted to play on an OC sports team. If you mark no, there's no follow-up question there. And then, are you associated with the Grange or 4-H? That's because we have a scholarship for Grange and 4-H members. And then the last portion here is qualification questions. There's a variety of questions here. They seem like some of them might seem a little bit random, but these are the bulk of what marks you to be qualified for any specific scholarships or not. So if you're planning a career in education, you'll mark yes, and then there's follow-up questions where you describe your interest in the field, mark if you're planning to do early childhood, elementary, middle school, or none of the above. If you want to teach mathematics, you would mark that here, and you would write your mini essay about your interest in education there. Then you'll mark if you intend to work in a field that will help make children's lives better. So even if you're not planning to go into teaching, you might mark yes here if you're going to teach or work in social work, pediatric medicine, coaching, or anything of that sort. Then if you're pursuing a professional technical degree, you'll indicate that here, and we've listed them all out here. So read through those and see if your program applies. If you're enrolled in an organizational leadership program, you'll indicate that here. If you're interested in a career in public service or law enforcement, returning to school after a break in your education, if you've been a resident of Kitsap for at least 1 year, if you have any connection to Bainbridge Island, as we do have a scholarship specifically for folks connected with Bainbridge Island, if you've been a resident from Mason County at least 1 year. If you mark yes on this one, there is a follow-up question about if you intend to stay and live and work in Mason County after graduation. These questions are for OC Promise. If you're graduating from Bremerton High School this year or Olympic High School this year, it would filter you in for that scholarship. And then if you're planning a career in medicine, nursing or pre-nursing, if you're officially accepted into one of our nursing programs. And if you mark yes on this, there's follow-up questions about which program you're in. And then this last page is where you're going to upload your transcripts if you have them. These are hidden from scholarship reviewers, so they don't see your name and your personal information, but it helps us verify your GPA. Uploading your transcripts is not required unless you're applying for OC Promise, then it is required. Then you can upload up to 2 letters of recommendation. You're not required to have any letters of recommendation, but it's strongly recommended to have at least one. You can either upload it directly if you have a copy of a PDF document that's been sent to you, or you can email a person directly and ask them to upload it on your behalf. So if you have your file, you would click upload here. If you don't have your file and you need to request it, you'll scroll down and type in the recipient's first name, last name, and email, and update the message that you're sending them to just provide a little bit more context of what you're looking for from that letter of recommendation. Once you send the request, they'll get an email and they'll click a link and directly upload it for you once they finish your letter. If you haven't heard from them or they lost the email, you can resend the request. If you are recognizing that it's getting close to the deadline and you still haven't heard from your recommender, you maybe want to reach out to somebody else, you can send a new request instead and request from somebody else if you're concerned that person's not going to come through for you. When you're all done, you're going to hit submit application, and it takes a moment to load, but it'll redirect you back to the home page. Once on your home page, it's going to tell you if you have any follow-up items to complete. The reason for this is some of our scholarships have additional questions in order to officially apply. So for example, right now it says we have 7 items to complete. We're going to click on follow up on progress Grange number 304. The next steps it says are if you're a member or child or grandchild of a member of the Progress Grange, please tell us about that affiliation. This is optional because you may not be a member or a child. So I would write not applicable. And then if you're a member of any 4-H club, please tell us about that affiliation. Again, that's optional. And if you're not a member, you would just put not applicable. And now you're all done. So that was really simple, and you're going to submit your application. Just because you're not a member of the Grange or the 4-H doesn't mean you're not eligible for that scholarship. That scholarship has a preference for folks affiliated with those things, but not a requirement. So if no other people who applied are in the Grange or 4-H, for example, then we would just base your consideration off of your scores. Then you can complete your next step here. So this one, these aren't optional. You have to answer these first two questions. And then this last one is optional because it asked for you to describe your volunteer community service involvement if you did not already describe it in the essay portions of your application. So if you really spoke to that in detail in your essay or in your section where you could write about your hobbies and how you spend your free time, you don't need to rewrite it here. So you can just say to please see the essay portion. But you do have to answer these first two that are required in order to apply for this specific scholarship. So you would complete those. And these are mini essays. They have a 500-word limit. And once you're all done typing your answers, you'll hit submit. And you'll just keep doing that for all the ones that you're eligible for. And some of these have really similar questions or even the exact same question as the follow-up step. So I recommend typing those responses onto a Word doc so that you can copy and paste those answers over if the same question is used on multiple scholarships. And that way too, you can track your word count to ensure you're not going to go over the word limit if you're typing it directly into the field. Like I said, the deadline to apply is March 31st, and you can go in and make edits even after you've submitted your application. So even though it says application submitted, I can click over here into my application and maybe update my student aid index number once I get that information back from FAFSA. Or I can change who I want to request my letter of recommendation from. So you have until March 31st for that. After March 31st, I can't have any changes made to the application. So even if you email me and say, I forgot to upload my transcript or I have my letter of recommendation, can you manually add it to my application for me? Even on the administrator's side, I'm not able to make any changes to the applications after March 31st. So it's really important that you meet that deadline. Like I said before, you'll be notified if you're receiving funding in early to mid-June, and you can begin using your funding as soon as summer quarter of 2025. If you are only going to be taking 1 or 2 quarters at OC next year because you're graduating early or you're transferring, that's completely okay. We can adjust how your scholarship is distributed to be aligned with what quarters you're going to be taking here at OC. So it's still worth applying even if you're going to be graduating in winter quarter, for example. The only thing is you can't use your funding anywhere else, even if you're attending, for example, the Western Extension at OC. At that point, you're technically a student of Western, not OC, so your funding can't be used for that. So just a couple of things to consider. If you have follow-up questions about your application or the process, or you want to check the status of anything, you can reach out to me via email. My email is sfairweather, and that's spelled S as in Sam, F as in Frank, AIRWEATHER @olympic.edu. You can also give me a call at 360-475-7123, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to reviewing all of your applications soon.